Here's an interesting story. Lewis, we know about OSHA. OSHA is a regulation organization that seeks to work on workplace safety and safety regulations for employees in all sorts of different companies. Back in the 2012 presidential campaign, Wisconsin businessman Lance Johnson said that President Obama's workplace safety regulations were burdening him and that inspectors were killing jobs with too much red tape. He said, "I've never been audited by more government agencies in my life than I have been under Obama." He's the president of Johnson Brass and Machine Foundry Incorporated in Saukville, Wisconsin. And he also said that he just has these aggressive regulators that are causing him huge problems. Johnson claimed that the cost of dealing with these so-called unnecessary OSHA audits went well into the six figures. And he said that they were duplicative, that they were looking at the same thing time and time again, which OSHA disputed. So the bad news, and it is ironic in a sense, but really it's just bad news, is that earlier this week, Johnson's foundry was the site of a horrific industrial accident. As reported by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, a catastrophic failure of machinery sprayed molten metal on workers, injuring 8, sending 4 of them to the hospital. And this is one of those situations where we hear the complaints saying regulation is too strict, and then we actually see that those complaining about the regulations have an accident like this. Now, of course, individual accidents can happen anywhere, but the issue is that if we look at the penalties that this foundry received, they were hit with proposed penalties of just under $10,000 for exposing workers to hazards back in 2011. So-called small government, hands-off business conservatives think that these regulations get in the way of profit. As it turns out, Lewis, the regulations and the fines weren't even enough to prevent this accident.
Right. A lot of people just call this big government, government overreach. I mean, in reality, OSHA is here for more than anything to protect employees from business owners who would cut corners and put their safety at risk just to save money.
People like Lance Johnson love to complain about how regulation of any kind is bad for business. What he doesn't mention is that for all of the duplicative auditing he claims to have been the victim of, all he received was a proposed minor fine, which, by the way, seems to never have been actually paid, and no demand to correct the dangerous conditions. In other words, the enforcement from the government was not nearly strict enough, yet he continued to complain that it was all just completely oppressive. This is another one of those areas where right-wingers like to say the government doesn't need to be involved. The private companies have an interest themselves to make their workplaces as safe as possible. And this is laughable, Lewis. We have example after example that proves that does not happen.
Right. Luckily, in general, there are plenty of business owners who don't have a problem with this, who abide by the rules and understand it. I'm glad we don't have a mass rebellion against OSHA.
This program is supported directly by you. Please go to davidpakman.com/membership to become a supporter today and get a whole bunch of great member benefits while doing it.